Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now, yesterday's show, there was a comment that kind of was saying Star Citizen was boring, or I guess Alpha 3.0 was boring, and I kind of wanted to reply to that. I kind of wanted to step out and take everything and put it aside and just say, well, I wanted to stop and talk about that comment because, to a certain degree, it is. It's a fairly slow-paced game. The travel time between worlds is quite lengthy, and I mean, we're just kind of going through moons in a system. When you were talking about crossing an entire solar system or going from planet to planet, things get considerably longer. I mean, of course, during the presentation, we saw them actually stop and say, okay, now we're going from this world to this world, so we've got about 8 minutes, so let's squeeze in a presentation while we warp there. Once again, to kind of illustrate the point of, these are real distances that we're covering. This isn't just kind of like teleporting here, there, and everywhere. And also to kind of give players an idea that, hey, this is something that we said since the beginning, and this is something that is really happening, and here it is. But I don't really think that it makes the game boring, so to speak. I think that it kind of enhances the game to a certain degree. I think that for people who might be used to, say, like survival games, building games, sandbox games, this will come as no big surprise to them. Star Citizen is probably going to have a lot in common with these kind of world-building sandbox titles. There's going to be these long periods of just slow activity, gathering resources, building up your base, that sort of thing. And then they're going to be punctuated by these, just frightening, frantic moments where all of a sudden everything jumps on you and everything can go bad. But in general, it's going to be more about, this kind of slow buildup and not so much that parceled out action of a single player title. That's more of a Squadron 42 thing. Star Citizen is more, to a certain degree, it's more like a sandbox title. I mean, you can go out now, you can build your base, you can do all that stuff, but that was not fully originally in the idea of what Star Citizen was going to be. I mean, we were going to fly to planets, and once you got close enough to a planet, you were going to go through like a loading screen, or, you were just going to kind of say, I want to dock at this planet, and then you would appear in the city at the landing pad. Very much like Privateer and Privateer 2, that sort of thing. But then when this planetary technology came up, oh no, now we can do the whole thing. We can have the whole kit and caboodle, so why not? And that is kind of where we are. I mean, we are kind of in this big open world, and we have to traverse these very real distances now. And I think that has added to the game. It's added to the possibilities that players have at their fingertips. No longer are you kind of going through a single player title where you kind of get to the boss and this is how you beat them, blah, blah, blah. Now it's up to you. You can do it any way you want. You can progress any way you want to, so long as you have the will to see it through. And I kind of like that better. But yeah, it is going to take time to get things done. I mean, I remember a while ago when someone said, oh, it's going to take 60 hours to earn a constellation. And, 60 hours, that's too long. 60 hours, that's too short. And, people freaking out over that. But yeah, it's going to take a long time. I mean, some single player titles, you're lucky if you get 60 hours of gameplay out of them in total. I mean, like, an entire campaign might be 40 hours of gameplay. Or if it's, Battlefront 2, what, 2 hours? 3? Star Citizen is a game that's, it's not about sort of the instant gratification of explosions. It's something that pays out over time. And I don't just mean, where you say, okay, for the amount of effort you put into it, you're going to get X amount out of it. But it's the time playing the game. It's the playing itself. That is the enjoyment. It's worrying about, am I doing this right? Can I do this better? It's about talking with other people, watching videos and kind of going, hey, this person found this way to do it that's actually more efficient than the way I'm doing it. So can I incorporate this into my overall plan? That sort of thing. It's that evolutionary gameplay of kind of reaching that next stage, you know. Oh, I started the game with a Cutlass Black, but I want to move up to salvaging and a Reclaimer. Next ship up is the Caterpillar. And kind of evolving through all those different stages. That's the enjoyment. That's the payoff of Star Citizen. It's kind of a slow burn sort of thing. It's not a, you know, in your face, shoot 'em up all the time type game. There's going to be moments like that, most certainly. But chances are, most of it is going to revolve around, you know, doing the mundane tasks to get to that next stage, to get to that better scanner, to get to that better gun, to get to that better missile rack. It's going to be that slow build. It's not going to be all at once. There are a lot of games out there that are like super exciting. You know, PUBG is another, you know, is one. There's plenty of games that you can get out there. Some that are free to play that are actually pretty good, like War Thunder or World of Tanks, things like that. But the problem is that those games, they tend to kind of burn out over time. That sort of arena combat style game where you're just kind of like, here it is, boom, push 2 buttons, boom, you're in the action. Same thing with Overwatch. It's that sort of instant gratification game that, yeah, it works for a while and it can be very enjoyable. And some people play it for a lot of time, but in general, most people play it for a few weeks, maybe a month, and then they burn out and then they're just like, okay, what's next? And you know, that Steam library keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's generally a story of that player's gaming history, kind of like, I played this and I got bored of it. I played that and then I got bored of it. And then I played this other thing and I got bored of that too. That's generally where, you know, how that cycle kind of repeats itself. Whereas Star Citizen is a game that you get into and you take your time with it. You savor it. You know what I mean? You know, lately there's been a lot of talk in the video game industry, you know, producers, developers, you know, stepping up and saying, you know, I still believe in the single player title. And everyone's like, yeah. And yeah, that's all well and good for a time. But then, you know, that's just kind of every time you get into one of those games. So let's say you're playing Deus Ex, you know, all of a sudden, you know, halfway through it, I find myself going, you know what? I kind of really don't care about the plot of this fucking game anymore. But I do like the universe. Just kick open the doors and let me play in the universe. Let me solve little crimes, hack stuff, and, you know, get into gunfights and have to solve puzzles. Just let me do that all the time. I really don't care about this story. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to explore this universe. And more often, I find when I'm playing a lot of single-player titles, I get to that point where I'm just like, nah, this is boring. Like, this is just one story. Whereas, you know, open-world games, especially some of the bigger titles, you know, they tend to tell you different stories over time. Or better yet, in some of the sandbox titles, it's the stories that you make yourself. It's the adventures that you have with your friends, you know, building a base and this guy says, oh, I'm going to go get leather. Oh, I'm going to go get iron. Well, I'm going to keep building the base and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and it's just the fun experiences you have while you're off doing those things. You know, all of a sudden you hear one guy like, oh, no, I'm dying. I'm not dead. Wait, no, I'm dead. And it's just those funny moments that you guys have that kind of open-ended gaming gives you, that kind of freedom to kind of work with, especially with a group of people cooperatively and try to achieve goals and do all those things. That's kind of where Star Citizen is. It's not an instant payoff game. And I like that about it. I mean, you know, so often when you look at a single player game, it just gets so dry so fast, you know? And they open up these worlds, and then I'm just like, you know what? Now just let me live in the world. I don't need your narrative. Get rid of it. I just want to check out this universe. So yeah, Star Citizen, I don't really think of it as a boring game. I think of it more as just an exploration. You know, just a chance to kind of go out and see what's out there and to fly around in semi-realistic ships and have adventures, that sort of thing. I understand, you know, some people might find this type of gameplay a little too arduous and a little too long-winded. Some players just want that, hey, boom, push start, instant action, gunplay, bullets, lasers flying everywhere. Cool. But Star Citizen is, you know, it's a much more slow burn of a title, and maybe Squadron 42 will be more your speed. Anyways, that's my thoughts on that. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.